Hi, I'm Noah Hughes, Studio Creative Director at Crystal Dynamics.
So Noah, talk about what you're showing here at E3 2019.
All right, we're showing Marvel's Avengers. This is a game that features an awesome narrative-based campaign and combines that with an online experience where you can assemble with up to 4 players and play in an evolving universe.
So in the gameplay demo you showed us today, we were playing the San Francisco opening level we saw at the Square Enix press conference, but we were going in between the 4 characters. Talk about how that works.
Yeah, in some of the levels, we feature particular heroes in particular sequences. That allows us to showcase the narrative progression of those heroes and also onboard players with specific skills and challenge them to master those skills over time. So in the case of the opening demo, you're seeing particular heroes played in sections that are made for them. And then as the campaign progresses, we blend levels like that feature a particular hero with a whole world full of adventures that you can take any hero that you've unlocked, you can upgrade it to your liking, customize it, join up with your friends, and jump into these other levels. So it's a combination. We try to provide the best of both worlds between that campaign experience and that online multiplayer experience. This is a handcrafted experience when you go into each level that caters to that character and creates pacing and story moments that can only exist in that context. But the world is much bigger than that this campaign really is an on-ramp into this world. So we have an expanding universe with additional heroes coming online and additional locations which we'll introduce players to, and a narrative that's going to continue for years to come. So it is important to recognize that this game really attempts to blend the best of these experiences, that it is absolutely a definitive Avengers experience, but it's also a really unique blend between what people love about single-player games and the ability to play online with your friends and replay online and have fun doing it.
In the demo we saw today, each of the heroes had 3 unique moves. It looks like they had like 2 standard super moves and then like an ultimate move. Will they have more at launch? Can you switch those out? Will they have more than 3?
We'll be talking more about the specific abilities of the heroes, but as you saw, they have some special moves that are charging up, and you can use those when they're charged. There's also a number of combo moves and some other core abilities. As you progress through the skill chain, you'll be able to unlock certain abilities, and there are even intrinsic abilities that the player has, things that you might expect from that hero as something that they just naturally makes them better than another, or different than another hero, and able to do the extraordinary things that Avengers have to do.
How does that work then? Do you have an experience system in the game?
Yeah, the players will be leveling up the heroes, not unlike an experience system, so you'll be purchasing skills over time, and those skills will give you modifications anywhere from your traversal abilities to your combat abilities and other just things that cater to your playstyle.
Everything we saw today was in-game engine. Does that mean we'll be able to customize our Hulk to maybe look like Mr. Fixit if we want?
Well, we don't have any specific announcements, but in addition to picking skills, the players will also be able to find gear that affects their abilities, but then they'll be able to choose outfits that affect their look. So it's a little different than some games in that sense, where you really can unlock a look that is very much your favorite look for this hero, and then make independent choices of how you want to equip that hero.
So each hero plays a little bit differently, actually drastically differently than the last. Can you go into kind of like a good example is like Hulk and Iron Man? They have 2 completely different play styles.
Yeah, I think it was important to us that each of these heroes played like you'd expect that hero to play, but also almost as if they could be the main hero in a game of themselves. So with Hulk, you're going to want that smashing. You have ultimate melee abilities, but you can also tear giant rocks from the ground and throw them. In his case, getting around is on the ground and running, but he can do these giant leaps and bounds, and he can hang from the wall and jump off the wall. You compare that with an Iron Man who comes with flight built in. He can fly around, he's got the repulsors, he's got melee skills, so he's a fairly balanced character in that sense. He's not going to be as powerful in the middle of a crowd as Hulk is going to be, but he has that advantage of agility and flight and the range attacks. So in each case, you can take those heroes and then modify them beyond that that first example, but it's just, you get the sense that each hero really does play entirely differently.
Did you guys, after the massive success of Insomniac's Spider-Man, did you guys talk to that studio at all and like get some advice or take some ideas or anything like that?
We've had great collaborations. Spent some time talking to those guys. Spent a lot of time working with Marvel. We've been collaborating with individuals like Bill Roseman, who's just has been a godsend because he is so deeply versed in the lore and the characters and the world. So brainstorming with him is super fun. It's something that we're all fans at the studio, but to have that degree of expertise and breadth of knowledge has been super useful.
Now, you mentioned to be adding on content, so is this kind of like a games as a service type of thing?
Generally, it is important to recognize that the campaign is just the beginning, so that narrative will continue for years to come. What is important to us, that players don't have to purchase they're getting new heroes for free, they're getting new regions to play in for free, that we're committed to not having randomization in loot crates. We don't want pay-to-win scenarios, so there's a lot of things I think that that people might misinterpret if we weren't very clear that our version of this extended experience is unique to this game, but we are committed to the campaign being just the beginning.
So talk a little about the missions. Are there going to be different, like we'll be in a lobby with some friends and we'll be able to select areas and missions that have a certain kind of feel to them or goal, and then we'll go in together and try to beat that goal?
Yeah, and we'll get into more details of how that multiplayer experience works, but the players can be tracking objectives. They can have shared objectives that they're teaming up to achieve. They can have individual objectives that they're achieving even as they're part of that group. So it is important that assembling together in 1 to 4 players is absolutely an exciting way to play.
So and you can just feel free to shoot out no's as fast as you can. Any plans for X-Men?
No announcements now.
Any plans for Fantastic Four?
No announcements now.
Any plans for Guardians of the Galaxy?
No announcements now.
So talk about what so many people are obsessed with open world superhero games. Spider-Man was open world. This is a handcrafted experience. What does that open up for you creatively when you can actually hold the player's hand through a linear level?
It is important for us for pacing and ramping to do some linear level design, but actually that wasn't really the crux of that choice, that Avengers defend the entire Earth from threats, and part of the fantasy of this game is to take you from location to location, but to really usher you into this world of superheroing where you do have to protect Earth from these threats. So that sense of having a base of operations, having a variety of locations around the globe, that just really fit better with the fantasy fulfillment of the Avengers for us. And then we have the advantage that some of these areas can be focused around a particular hero if we want that. They can be a bit more linear if they're really introducing you to parts of the story, but then they can also come completely off the rails and put you back into that superhero fantasy where you're just teaming up with your friends and doing the things you'd expect these heroes to do.
What is having the whole Marvel universe open up for you at your fingertips, open up for you creatively, and how do you go about even deciding what characters and scenarios and villains you want to use?
I think that's the hardest part, is there are so many awesome heroes and villains that the first thing you have to do is just talk yourself out of not doing all of them. So, but one of the things that's fun is once we find the heart of that story, that certain villains and certain characters start to make sense. So we've chosen those villains as foils for our heroes in these stories, and thematically important to the larger message of the story. So we'll share more about more villains and more heroes down the road, but it was important to us that as much as we could choose any of them, that we created a story that made sense in a world that made sense together.
When does your game come out and what platforms will it be on?
Comes out May 15th, 2020, and that's going to be on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia.
Because I have to ask, any plans for Nintendo Switch or Xbox Scarlet?
We have no other platform announcements at this time.